Good evening. Are you all fine tonight?
Great.
It's getting into deeper lectures, I hope, that will challenge us even a little bit more tonight than it was until now. Because we slowly get to the bottom of the human problem. We just saw yesterday night that every event that comes to us, even what we prayed before about what happened in Orlando or what other catastrophes, is that the right? Catastrophe happens in this earth. We have to put it somewhere, in gain or in loss. And our body reacts only to loss negatively. And he reacts positively to gain. Why do you think when a person is in love feels so good? Now, what is happening in the consciousness? You meet the girl or the boy, or the man or the wife, and then you feel very well. Why do you feel so good? What are you thinking subconsciously of whom you met? You met, pardon? Yes, but how much do you think you gain through that? A maximum gain or not a maximum gain? So you think it's a maximum gain, so you value the other with a very high value. And in a moment you value another person with a very high value, you cannot be as feeling maximum good. The higher you value a person, the better your emotions are. Now, why do the emotions do not stay where they are? Because they are just a result of the gain or the loss. But in being in love, you feel so good because you see the other one and you say, this is a diamond. And when you find a diamond, you feel very good. But after a while, you see that the diamond has some scratches. And what happens then with your emotions? They get lower, they go down. And so with the time, people come to me, and as a medical doctor, you do everything because you know all things come from the heart, and I do a lot of marriage counseling. And then the one says, I don't have any feelings for him anymore or for her. And I say, I know why. Because you don't give them any value anymore. When someone is valuable to you, you keep him. And when someone is getting a old rusty piece of metal, what are you doing with him? You throw him away. You do not give him any value. So this is how it goes in our subconscious. The more value we give to another person, the more we love him. In the heart, there is the thing, because love is in the conscious, but in the heart, there is value. Because in the heart is only gain and loss. In the heart is the treasure. It's not the word love there, but the love is the greatest treasure. So, in this way to say. So, Why are people so sorry when something tragic happens? What do they feel? They feel strong emotions. They need to weep. They lose their control because they put that, what they see or hear, into loss. Yes, it is subjective. How much do you see something as a loss or not? The one might say, this is a big loss. The other might say, this is not such a big loss. But the bigger the loss is, the heavier your bad emotions are. So whenever you have a bad emotion, you know you thought loss in your heart. I once was in my practice, and my helper just told me how many patients I had last 3 months. We get paid in Germany every 3 months. It's a quarterly payment for how many patients we have. And in Germany, everything is so settled. You get a certain amount. You don't get more no matter what you do with the patient from the insurance, and that's it. And so just that quarter, I dropped from, I think, 600 or 700 to just 600 patients, so 100 patients less this quarter. And when she told me, I immediately felt, how? Bad. I felt bad. And I didn't even realize it, but I am so used to feel good that I realized immediately, oh, I feel bad. So I go and say, what do I think here? And then I go back and say, this is it. I thought that's a loss for me that I have 100 patients less. My body showed me that that is a deception. You see, there are two kinds of, I could say, negative emotions. The one that come to you because you see that that loss is your personal loss. That's a very bad feeling and emotion. But when the loss is not personal, you might have a feeling because you sympathize with the other, but it won't take you sleepless nights, would it? You see, we're not in Orlando. We are not in the case of these people. Or then, as you see it, you say it is a catastrophe, it's a loss, but you don't consider it personal. So that won't make you sick. You see, Jesus, whenever he saw loss around him, he did not consider it personal. He was the man of sorrow, but he never sorrowed for himself. But when we get into a tragedy like this, we do not sorrow for those who passed away. We sorrow for ourselves. And it is very tricky because we don't see it. I just learned it in the reaction of the body. I have one of the worst cases, so to say, in my practice. There's a lady in her 40s. She came 2 times to me. Before I understood all this, I was on the way to understand them. And she had the following story. 11 years before she came the first time to me, 6 years before and 8 years before. So she had, let's say the first time she came, 8 years before, or 6, whatever. When she came first time to me, she happened that she had one daughter. The daughter was 11-year-old. And that daughter was killed bestialically by a sexual murderer. So he abused the child and killed her bestialically. And I see the lady, the mother of the child, 6 years later and also 8 years later. How was she doing health-wise? She was in her 40s and she was in her pension. She couldn't do nothing anymore. Her body was just not able to have any power in himself. It was just taken off every power out of her body. And that was, I saw it. And of course I said, why? Because this lady was healthy before the thing happened. But after the thing, how does she consider in her heart the loss? Big loss or low loss?
Big loss.
Very big, maximum loss. For a mother or a husband or a father, the loss is maximum. But amazingly, and that's for me, why does it make sick the body? Because there is a little addition to the loss, and that is that we consider it personal. We consider it personal. And every loss that is maximum and you consider it personal will kill you, sooner or later. So the only thing in our deceptive heart that at the end makes us sick is the consideration that loss is personal. I had a couple coming to me, husband and wife, they were in their 40s. And he came to me because he loses, now for 10 years, the eyesight of his right eye. It's not a macular degeneration, but it's a degeneration of the nerve, the opticus, the right opticus nerve. And since 2 years, it started also in the left eye. Now, for those who know a little bit anatomy, you know the opticus comes basically from the right side to the eye, but one part from the opticus from the right goes into the left, and the other part comes to this. So that's why we have affected very often both eyes, but the one is stronger. That's the main stream from the same side of the nerval, streams, and so I was very curious for the history, because he had a very rare, they diagnosed him with a very rare disease. And I know, whatever rare disease you have, it comes from personal loss. Because in that eye, in that right eye, it was not inherited, it was not by accident, it was not by food, because it goes everywhere in the body, it was not by any damage from outside, it could only come from his heart, from the way he was thinking. And so I knew where to look, and I asked him the question, and it fitted very well. 19 years ago, their child died. And the man, he's still grieving. He still has in his heart, of course, the feelings, the emotions, they are not strong anymore, they don't weep anymore, and you sleep. But that memory of what happened destroys his nerve. and especially the right side of his brain. And then I see his wife. They experience the same stress, yes? That's why I look to families. I look to all family members when I do my inquiry, and I see in all the family members, I can see what is going on. If you have 7 brothers or 11, I have sometimes people that have 11 siblings, and I go through the lives of just health-wise to see what they all have. Then I have a picture of how the family went on and what the problem were. Heavy or not heavy. Because they're always from a personal loss. So I asked the woman for her disease that came to her after the passing away of their child. You know what she got? She's left-handed, not right-handed. That's why her brain on the left side was, by the Spirit, put into a bad situation, because only the Spirit can know gain and loss. And she got a brain tumor 3 years later. And she was 3 times surgery. And in 2007, she had the last surgery. And then she made up her mind. She somehow arranged to get over that thing. And then that brain tumor stopped growing. And I can tell you stories over stories of this kind. But just very visible. For me, there is no doubt. I have seen it in the body. I have seen it in thousands of patients. I don't have only the physical as the proof, but I have only, like I shared last night, the Bible as a proof. If you lose something that is a treasure to you, you going to die. That's a law. Because the life issues are from the heart. Why could we not say, oh, it's sad that the child was killed, but it was not my child? Why could he not say, yes, my child died, but it was not my child? Then I would be having a thought of loss that would not damage me. I would have not a need to say no to that, because it's not my own. Because I have to say for myself no to loss. But I cannot say no to the loss of others. Can I say no to the loss of others? Am I responsible for the loss of others? Only if I do it to them. But I am not responsible when others are doing loss. I have no loss. Why do we consider it personal? And I came to understand that this is the most deepest deception that we must understand in ourselves. We would never consider a child personal or anything personal if we would know the truth about who we are. Who am I? And so we will come to that who am I step by step, going from, like we go here, from backwards to the front. So I don't tell you what I want to demonstrate you, what we think in ourselves when we have personal loss, who we are. Because here in the heart, we have the motivation that comes before, that comes after we know who we are. And the motivation that the evil eye has is selfishness and pride. And that is for me very difficult, so I try always to reduce things to the bottom, to the common denominator, to the end of it, where there is no deeper thing. So for me, selfishness is the root of all selfish ideas is the thought I have, in the way I possess. And the root of all pride is the idea I can, in a way I can produce something. And because I think I have to possess something, I can and produce something, the first action of the evil eye is give. But it never gives for free, but to receive. And you always get into loss when you are not receiving, or when something is taken away from you. That's the evil eye, that's the wrong motivation. It always gives first and then expects to receive or to take. And we will see that that is exactly the opposite as everything in nature works. So, what does we think that we possess? Because if we could stretch out this and say, I possess nothing, how much could be taken away from me? Nothing. So I would be very safe if someone would kill my child. You know, when the similar thing happens in Norway, that happened in Orlando a few years ago, I think it's 4 years ago, I was very curious, and I would have loved to go to all these families, and I would love, of course, to share them what happens in their heart, but also, you see, you cannot always share things, but observe. You see, it's now 4 years past. You will see many diseases coming up in these people. Some might even have died already from the event that happened in their life, just because they took it personally. It would be a very interesting observation and study to see what happens physically with those who go through such a stress. And I can explain the process. And I can explain why the process is damaging. So let's put the question, can a human being possess anything? And I put it the other way around. I say, why can a human being never possess anything? Why can a human being never possess anything? Do you know the answer? Or are you there that you say a human being can possess anything? Is anyone here to say the human being is a possessor of things?
A car, a house, a wife.
Well, is it yours? Is it your possession?
In our society, yeah.
No, well, we don't go by the society, we go by the truth.
Are you talking about physical things?
Whatever. It's a general question. It's an all general. Can you ever possess anything?
Well, what's the definition of possess? Does that mean it's mine, and if you want it, I have to either give it to you, or you have to steal it from me, or?
Well, whenever can you say that's mine?
Yeah, I've got things that I say are mine.
Okay.
I guess we could call ours, but for a certain amount of time, and we have to do it other time.
Now, yeah, so since we are mortal, we can say we cannot possess it. But let's give you the answer. Whenever you call something yours, you're wrong. Because it's a lie. Because you must know the truth. The truth says, why can a human being never possess anything? Because he cannot create anything. When you are a creator, then you are a possessor. Everything you do is just working with materials. You never create anything from your own. Are you with me?
How about an art? My wife made a cake and I ate it.
Yeah, but she just prepares the cake. She takes the materials. She puts them together. That's not a creation. That's a preparation. You just work with the material, but you don't produce it. If we have anything that we possess, then we must have created it. Now, what does the mother think about her child? Whose child is it? Hers, because she thinks she gave birth to it. But tell me, can a woman make a child?
I've done it 3 times.
No, well, alone.
We get a little help from him at the beginning.
Yes, so at the beginning. Now, you understand, that child comes half from a man. You just bear it out. You have the privilege to bear that child out. But a woman can never make a child. It must be a cooperation with a man. So you need 2 half selves to do that, or to co-work with it. Because, even if you do your best, you might never get pregnant. You might be very healthy, and it never works. Why? Because it's not enough that you and I do our duty for what we can multiply ourselves. There must be someone who says, this is it. I want this child to exist because it's mine. But you see, the parents, the father claims his child as his. Yes? I will not allow you to do with my child this. I see many people fighting, mother and father, over the education of their child. And they all fight because they say, this child is my child. You don't hear them say, I just want to fight for God's right over this child. I do my duty and responsibility because this child is God's. Because I tell you, if God will ever ask humans what they have done in their life, they will ask them what they have done with their children, if they have grown them up. Because it's not theirs. Is it? Is it yours? Then you can do whatever you want. But since it's not yours, you have to give a responsibility. And that's, I think, and I've seen many, many people around, and I see the families and how the children are treated. And the parents work with their children like they are theirs. Yes.
If God gives you something, is it yours?
Never. Everything that God gives you remains His. There is never something that God gives you that He does not want to have increase from. You must bring Him back that same talent with increase, with multiplication. Do you know the talent parable? Everyone gets a talent. Or the other one where one gets 5, the other 3, the other 1. And it's similar. God is very pleased that the one makes from 1 talent 10, The other makes from 1 talent 5, according to how he could do it. But the one takes his talent and put it in not in the bank, in the ground. And it says there in that, he put it in his shirt where he took his sweat off. You know, when they have like this, how you call this tissue that, yeah, when you remove your sweat, you know, when you work, some people sweat so hard, and so they have something to remove their sweat. And the Bible says he put the talent in that sweat towel, yes? And so, did he work something with it? No. And what did Jesus say to him? Yes, when we see the law of life, which we see tomorrow night, we will see that everything that we have is for growth, for putting into things to grow. And we are always responsible for what we do with our bodies, are we? Why will God take us in responsibility if they are ours? You could say, well, it's mine, I can do with it what I want. No. If it's yours, God will never have been able to ask you at the judgment day, what have you done with my right hand? What have you done with my right foot? What have you done? Because I gave it to you for a purpose. And that purpose is not selfishness. That purpose is serving. But we have forgotten the purpose to the evil eye. We just, everything that God gave us, we put in our own sweat towel and say, this is mine. And when the judgment comes, God tells you, you could at least brought it to the bank. And someone else should have done on it a work. But you didn't do it. It's a very, very important point. But you can all reason with me that it is so, can you? You can never say the child is mine. It is yours to bring it to God and to make out of His character something that is a blessing for society and for the world. That needs education. That's, again, the purpose to give. We will see that that's the purpose. That's gain in the end. But it's not yours. But can the child or can you claim your life is yours? Can you? You see, I see many abused people. You know why the abused people are very sick over the years? Sexually abused people? Because they consider the abuse, how? Personal. Now how, and you say it is personal, yes. And I have this, and if the people would not be sick, I would say they're right. But if your personal loss kills you, you must be wrong in your perception. Even though your perception says to you, it is personal. And it's a very, very sensitive subject. Because I speak with many abused people, and some are abused over years. And when they are abused, especially from parents that are in the church, or pastors, or leaders, and they have been abused from them, then their burden is much heavier than if it would be just a drunkard that have just done it because he was drunk. But I came to understand that whatever makes us sick must be wrong. Yes, it was done on you. You felt it. But you never consider it done unto you. We will come to that later. It's important. Paul, Jesus were abused, were they? Was Jesus abused sexually? Yes, of course. He was hanged on the cross, naked. He was beaten. He was exposed to the eyes of all people that went around there. He was mocked. And how did he consider it? Personal or unpersonal? Paul says, I am favored that I can be beaten up because I represent the body of Christ. And if my body is hurt, it is that thing that still misses the body of Christ to be hurt, so I am glad to suffer together with Christ. So when he's beaten to death almost, when he comes to consciousness in Philippi, he starts on what to do? Sing and praise God. He was just called in a new mission. You know, the angel came, he had the vision in the night, he went to Philippi, his first sermon, he was beaten to death almost. With 40 beats, you were dead. He had 39, together with his friend Silas. And then he was put into the stock in the prison. And when they got off from their unconsciousness, they started at midnight to sing. Why? For loss? Can you sing for loss? Of course not. You cannot praise God for loss. You will always praise Him for the gain. And so, you see, there is something in Paul and in Jesus and in others, we will see in Job, that did not consider the death of their 10 children as a personal loss. It would have killed Job. Job. Yes? He did not consider everything. He was the one that was put to the test by the maximum tests. You know, Job was the maximum test the devil can do from outside to you, that you should kill yourself. He takes everything away what you love. He took everything in 12 hours. Everything, the 10 children, the everything he had, except one thing. He left the servant to come to tell him the news. And he probably left his wife still alive because he knew he could tempt him through her. But he took everything away. And what did Job say when the last message came to him? What did he say? Can you still remember that?
Naked I came.
He says, naked I came and naked I go. How much do you have when you're naked? He says, God has given, God has taken, the name of the Lord shall be praised. And yes, he teared apart his clothes because he had grief for the event that it happened, but it was not his own. And since it was not his own, the devil lost his saying that Job is under his control. The devil could not control Job, even though he made the hardest test that on any human being you can do, taking him in 12 hours, everything away. But Job was in his heart. He had the other side of the heart. He had the truth. The lie was killed in him. But then he was put to the next step of test. If I just touch his skin, everything a man has he will give for his life. Now he comes and abuses him physically. You know, Job had probably the worst disease that ever gets on earth. You know that? You know what the worst disease is? The worst disease is pain and itching. I have seen patients that for years were itching their skin, and they could not stop itching. a disease with itching. I don't know if you like itching. Do you like it? And imagine it itches, and it is also at the same time very painful. You neither can do something for your itching, and neither can do something for your pain. Because when you itch, it hurts the more. So that was Job. And now, in this heavy state of, so to say, gain or loss, personal or unpersonal. And now Job, he suffers. He makes one single mistake, but it's not a real mistake. He wants to prove God right. He should have never said anything. Because his friends come to him and say, Job, it's your problem that you're sick. But Job says, I have done nothing to be sick. I am clear. My heart with God is okay. I have no issues that can make me sick. And they said, no, it's not possible. So they were on the extreme. See, when people don't like what I say, they say their job. Yes, but I tell you, I never met a Job yet. Because I could find in every human being that was sick the thought of personal loss. And when they realize it, when they confess it, I say, okay, that's it. But in Job, I would have not found any personal loss if I would have asked him. And so I would say, okay, that's none of my business. That's coming from God. It's testing you, faith. It's going to make you stronger. So Job, stay strong until the end. But we do many, many diseases put on that side, which are not from that side, and so we don't know how to do and deal with it. Job said, if he kills me, I will still trust him and love him. So those are the extremes, because in extremes we can see reality. So Job was not thinking. His body is his when it was so. And his suffering was his suffering extreme? There are only 3 men in the Bible that cursed. Actually 2, but I consider one the third too. That cursed the day of their birth. You know which one was Job, and what was the other one? Jeremiah and Job. They cursed the day of their birth. Did they lose their faith when they cursed the day of their birth? No. It was just an expression of their pain. The same thing like Christ on the cross said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That's the suffering. That's where you see the deep suffering. But when Christ said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Did he lose his trust in his Father? No. His trust in his Father was the same. So it was with Job when he expressed his pain that he said, I am cursed that I was born. When Jeremiah said, I would have wished that my father would have not brought that good news to or it would have not brought to the father the good news that the son is born to you. It was not an expression of disbelief. It was an expression of the deepest pain that can a human be able to suffer. And if you keep your trust in that situation, then you have a heart that is clean. You have a heart that does not deceive you anymore because you don't consider that personal. So, have we fixed that thing? I mean, it's an easy thing to fix. I have no issues. My patients in my practice, they agree with me no matter what religion they are, that they do not possess anything. But now we have seen that in our evil heart, we think that we also produce something, so we are creator of something. Now, what does the human spirit thinks that he creates? That's the question. What does the human spirit thinketh he creates? Let's go back to our second lecture. Another one I wanted, so it's in the first one still. Yeah. So let's go through this. Give me the question is, can I produce the oxygen that I need to breathe? Can I produce the oxygen that I need to breathe? Can you? No. What does that mean if you cannot produce the oxygen that you need to breathe? It must be there. Yes? You need a source. Do you need a source for oxygen? Are you with me? It's good if you work with me and don't fall asleep then. So, we have no source. We have no way to create our own oxygen, so we need a source where we take it. And the source is the nature. Can you create your water that you need to drink? No. Can you create your food that you need to eat? I hope you say no here too. Some people say yes, but I say there are no apples and pears that growing on your skin. Yes? So that's not possible. So can you change your warmth so that you live with another temperature? You cannot do. Can you produce the sleep? No. People who cannot sleep, they know that they cannot produce the sleep. They just experience it. Can you produce the sun? I hope that everyone will say no. And now we come to the most important question. Is the love that you need to give, because we saw that we have to think lovingly, freely, we have to think kind thoughts. That is, we have to give this kind of thoughts towards the others, and then we feel very good. So is the love you love with your love, or is it another's love? Do you use your love to love your wife, your child, your husband, or is it another's love you use? So when you tell someone, I love you, what do you mean by this? I give you my love, or I give you the love of my mother? Mine. Yes? So the human being, the human spirit thinks that he will say, can I produce love? Here he would say, yes. So if he thinks that he creates love, what does the human spirit think he creates? Love. What must he think he is? He must think he is God. Because God is the only one who is love. God is the only one who can create things and possess things, and He's the only one who loses when something happens, because every child is His child. So, the human being thinketh in the heart of hearts, there where he does not know who he is, he thinks, I am God. You would never get upset if someone would reject your love, if it would not be yours, would you? You would never. Why can you not love the person that abused you? Why can you not love it? Because you think he does not deserve your love. And yes, your love he does not deserve, but for you to live, you must love him with God's love. Because God's love he deserves. Because is love undeserving or a non-deserving issue? Oh, I hope when we are in a conscious, we know that love is not something that we deserve or not deserve. Is oxygen something we deserve? No, of course not. There's nothing in the end that we deserve. But we all need it. That's why a human being is not possible to love a person that did him wrong. You can never love. I put this question, let's put this question. Do you like selfish people? You don't like them because selfishness, selfishness comes in different shapes, in different outcomes. Some are very selfish in the way they serve. And it is not seeing that it's selfishness behind. And some are just showing selfishness in just sitting on the throne and expecting everything to come to them. And so, there is every human being has a hard time when he sees that the other one is selfish, and even thinks he uses himself for his own pleasure or for his own benefit. What do you do with that person? You love him? Can you? You cannot. That's why we die. You see, we must always love those around us. We will see that tomorrow night. There is no exception. If your father is a pastor and abuses you, you must love him like he would be the best father. Not for him, but for you to live. Because to love is as needed as to breathe. What happens with you when you stop breathing? You die. What happens with you when you breathe a wrong thing? You die too. The same thing happens with human beings when they breathe or give poison. Thoughts of revenge, thoughts of sadness, of those thoughts, they kill you, not the other one. Because there is a law that says, as you need to breathe the pure oxygen, you need to love with pure love, no matter how the other is. Because love is an undeserving thing. God gives love to how many humans? He let the sun shine over how many? The good and the evil. If you would be God, how would you do it? For sure different. For sure different. Because you cannot love those who do not deserve love. You cannot respect those who do not deserve respect, because you have no capacity, and you have that no capacity because you think something about yourself that is not true. So give me a few proofs. But you see, when I proves that we all think and have the same idea about us. There are patients that came to me when I say and I reveal to them that they think they are gods in their heart. They say to me, I am never thinking like that. I never thought that thought. And I said, yes. Consciously, only children do it. Sick people do it. Yes, mentally sick people, yeah? And drunk people might do it. But everyone thinketh it in his subconscious because it is shown how he behaves himself. And I tell to that patient when he says, but I never think that I'm God. I said, oh, if you would not think you're God, you would not sit here with me as a patient. Because these things come from here. Let me explain the proofs of that thought, I am God. And I can prove things only by what is seen. Yes? So my first proof is behavior. You know what man's biggest desire in his evil eye is? Where he finds his greatest satisfaction? Pardon? Power. Power over whom? Power over others. Have you seen my lectures before? No. Over. Power over others. You see, to rule and dominate others is our most desired thing, and it's our most common behavior daily. And we don't even see it. Rule and control others is the power over others. Is that, where did that originate? In the devil, because he wanted to be what? God. So, I tell this. Why do people like to have money and to be rich? They want to have power. And if you have all the money of this world, is it enough? Or you want to have also political power? If you're an artist, if you're, you have people here that are very famous in America, and when they are famous and they have earned all their famousness, they are not happy enough, they must become president. Is it? Because when you're president, no, Ronald Reagan was a former actor, yes. Schwarzenegger would be, if he would have been born in America, I would sign up that he would have been one of the presidents. Because he would have asked for that, he would have had the money, and he would have loved to just sign whatever you like to sign as the president. So whenever you have everything, you still have nothing or not enough if you don't have power over others. There is this one test that was done in New York. Do you know that test? In the university, I think in the 60s or 70s it was done. There were a group that were the prisoners, and the other group were the staff that, the jailers. And they gave the jailers total power over the prisoners. These were normal people. You know what happened in a few days? They became besties. Is that an English word? Like a beast. They became a beast. Because whenever you give a power to a human, he is changed. Give him, and you will see what happens. They had to interrupt it. They would have killed. I have not seen the movie. They have done a movie over it. But it is very true. If you give a person power, he is going to be changed. Because power over others is our most loved attitude. We might hate it and I hate it when I see it. I hate it from my conscience, my reason, but when I see it, I do it. But I'm still doing it, and I hate it that I do it. I recognize myself in the last month and weeks that I behave like a god. I want to rule over others. For the evil? For the evil? No. Always I have a good idea. I want righteousness to be. I want order to be. And I want to just put that over others because I know the right order. What is the next proof? You know, you are the measure for others, are you? You put yourself the measurement. Like you all must be. That means you are the law. You are the one that judges. You know, you would never judge a fellow human being if you would be equal with him. Why would you judge another person? If he's your brother, he's equal with you, he's a created being like you. There would never be a tendency in us, if we would know who we are, to rule and judge others. And the Bible tells a lot about judgment. You know that? Don't judge. Because this comes out of the deceptive idea who you are not, but you think subconsciously you are. And then our behavior is that we want to be worshipped. Is the spelling word? We want to be worshipped. And I put this in quotation marks so that, but in the end it is so. When you give respect to someone, what do you expect from him? You respect back. So you like that people should bow before you, do you? People should lay unto your feet, so you feel how? Very good. You see why people cannot forgive until someone comes and say, "Oh, please forgive me." Then they say, "Okay, I forgive you, because I'm God." We will speak about forgiveness as we can. We have the time. We will see that what we think is forgiveness is not forgiveness. It doesn't work physically. People are still sick. They are still burdened in their heart, even though they say, "I forgive them." Because that thing they still consider as a personal loss, what has been done to them. And when it comes back, what happens with that thing that you forgave? It is there again. Because in your heart, you memorized it. Oh yes, you forgave him, but he did you a personal loss. And as long as you think that someone did you a personal loss, you have not forgiven him. Forgiveness is the understanding of truth. The other one hurt you, but he didn't mean to hurt you. He hurt the possessor whom you belong, and that is God. And he has to be taken responsible from whom for what he has done? God. That's why the abused child from his father must leave to whom the judgment? Can she? Can he? I just spoke recently with a lady, 65 years old. She showed me the scars that her father did her when she was 17, beating her with the belt and the the things of the belt just hit her wrist. And now she's 65. She's much overweight. She has so many troubles, because that what her father has done unto her is still in her memory as a personal loss. She doesn't look to the scar and say, these are the scars on the body of Christ. They say, it's my body. I was hurt. And so she is destroying herself with her own thinking, believing that something is. So she judged her father. We expect others to worship. Why do people want to be famous? Yes, you like to stay in front because it's a very nice thing when you get the approval of others. You want to be respected, you want to be invited, you want to be, I had one problem that I have in my life, and it's one of the worst, when people fight with me, that's okay. But when they ignore me, that's a heavy thing. And they don't see me, then that could kill me. So I hope I'm not, but that's where the thing is. You want to be seen. You want to be worshipped. You want that people should recognize your studies, your merits. That's what you want to be. And you don't even see that it's totally wrong. So, I could go on here for hours, but I have to stop because the time is over. Because we give first that we might receive proves that we think we are gods. You know what the difference is? I make a small scheme here. What the difference is between God and a created being? How many needs does God have? How many needs does God have? So God has no needs. So He has how many functions? Only one, to give. Yes, He's love. God lives out of Himself. Yes, He is life. Is He? Are you with me? Yes. So He does not need to take love from everyone, does He? No, He just gives. And everything He gives, then we will see tomorrow night, comes in a circle back, but not that He needs it, but that is the effect of love. It multiplies. It brings new life and new life and new. So, but what is a created being? A created being is a channel. And a channel first needs to take, that it might be able to give. Now, if the human being first gives before he takes, he gives to receive, he must think from his action, he proves that he thinks he's God. Because he thinks he has something to give from himself, while he has how much to give from himself? Nothing. Isn't that amazing that Jesus says, I can do nothing out of myself? He was a man. He was man and he knew the law. Everything he said, like I see my Father doing, I do also. Like I see my Father speaking, I speak also. So Jesus took from his Father and he gave to the world what he took from his Father. And all his work were whose works? They were Father's work, even though he did them. He said to Philippus, you should recognize that I, the Father, because I did the works of my Father. So, when you give first, before you take, you give from yourself, which is a total impossibility, as we will see tomorrow night when we go to the law of life. I have three three other proofs that we think we are God, and that is religion. The religions of the world, heathenism, all of them have incorporated or teach that you are God or a part of God. We are never a part of God. We are creations of God, but we are not a part of God, and we are not God. That's why they teach that you have everlasting life, that you have life in yourself, that you cannot be killed or you cannot die. Those are all the misconceptions. In everywhere I go, religions prove, because religions come from our evil hearts. We made them from ourselves. And they prove that we think that we are something that we are not. Even Christianity. And Christianity, it's in the Bible we don't find the teaching, but what is the Christian church have proved herself to do in the past? What was her main action? Power over others. If you don't believe like me, you have to suffer. Do you think the time is over? The time is coming when you don't believe like someone wants you to believe. You must suffer. Because there is no tolerance when I am God. You must do it like I want it. Religions are used for power over others. And it will still be used also in the future. We know that. So the third proof for me, and that's also a religion, are the atheists. I don't know if that's the right spelling, or the agnostics. You know the agnostics, what they think? They think that life is from themselves. They think they live out of themselves. True that they can live out of themselves? Can they? Of course not. But you see, this species of man, we have only one species, but this category of people are those how can I say, not that I love them all, but I can approach this best. You know why? These people are deceived by the same evil heart, but they see in religion no solution for their problem. And so they say, let me alone with God. But when they are sick, and they come to my office or to my presentations, and I talk to them, I prove to them through sickness that they have a God, but it's just the wrong one. And I believe that most of them will be convinced by their diseases that they are deceived. No one lives from himself. If you would live from yourself and you could produce your own love, you would not die, you would not be sick when someone passes away. You would not die when something you lose in your life. It would just not happen. And then there is the fourth proof that we all think that we are gods on this earth is science. Science has a theory of evolution. If the theory of evolution is true, who is the highest being? We are. Who made us? We did. We just came up out of this, all things, and now we are the highest species on earth. And are we responsible to someone? Is science teaching you that you're dependent for love for a God? You see why you will never find in science the need of love. That's why science uses the word emotion. But emotion is a deceptive word. There is no such thing as emotional intelligence. There is no such thing as an emotional need. That's when you take the words and you know what's behind, it's nonsense. But we use it, and I use it to approach people because they don't understand me. But I want to make clear, love is spiritual. And evolution says there is no spirit. Everything is materialism. That's why we adjust to the brain what the spirit does, while the brain is just the key of a piano. That's why in science you will not find it, that science will ever teach you the truth. There is some truth in science, like everywhere, but science will teach you that you are self-dependent. Science will teach you that you are the highest being, and you have no responsibility for a higher being for the means he has given to you to use. So, don't expect that science should teach you that you need God for your health. Because when that comes, then they must say, okay, you need love. Then they must know, then you must have a spirit who knows and understands love. And then when you have a spirit, you know that evolution is how much possible? It's never possible. Evolution in the end is the most stupid idea. But I don't understand how we can go in such a blindness. But I know why we can go into blindness when we shut the eyes in front of evidences. That happens the same in the religious world. The religious world is as blind as the science world. And we are just blind to reality. But if we would look to the laws of nature, we would see that that is reality. So, I hope that I could prove to you, even though you will see it will make something in you, I am God is the first, the most deepest thing in our life. That's the beginning of our heart. And if we process everything to the I that of who I am, then of course everything around me is mine. You know, the devil had the idea in heaven that all the gold, all that he had was suddenly his. That was the first idea that I found written in the writings of Ellen White, that he came up and said, this is all is mine. Did you make it? And so the deception started. Whenever you claim something as yours, you're in great danger. And even though you can understand this with your reason, you will see that your heart in the situation of stress will deceive you. It just, boom, and you're again playing God. You know, I played God this week a few times. When things happened that I didn't like, I had to try to bring others to my standards. And it didn't work. So I hope that we learn this lesson in our reason. It's a long time until we can put it into practice to not play God anymore. But try and pray to God that He should reveal to you whenever you play the God. He will do it. And you will be scared when you see yourself as you do it. And it's a terrible thing, the more I see it. And it damages my body. And I thank God that it damages my body, because I can then learn most of it to see myself. Tomorrow night, we will go on the truth side. And we'll see, what are we really? Are we gods? Are we gods? Of course not. We are what? We are a creature of God. So what is our first task to do in life? To take that we might give, and through giving multiply. But that will come tomorrow night.